Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. On the night of the 27th of July, stargazers across the globe were captivated by a rare celestial phenomenon. The glowing phase of the July full moon passed through the center of Earth's darkest shadow, marking the start of the total lunar eclipse and the emergence of the blood moon. It was the century's longest total lunar eclipse, lasting for more than 100 minutes. During this period, the moon appeared reddish-orange in color. Coincidentally, Mars was also at its closest to Earth in 15 years, putting two bright red objects in the sky. People in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Africa and Asia got the best view of the blood moon. Today's In Depth talks about what made the recent celestial occurrence so special and rare. What is it that makes the moon appear red, and why is it called a blood moon? A total lunar eclipse occurs when the sun, the earth and the moon perfectly align for the Earth satellite to dip into its shadow. But unlike the full moon and new moon, phases of the glowing orbit, which happens every month, lunar eclipses take place only once or twice a year on an average. The longest lunar eclipse of the 21st century dazzled stargazers. But in many places, the moon mostly played hide and seek with monsoon clouds. Contrary to many beliefs, and unlike a solar eclipse, where the observer's eyes have to be protected, the sky can be directly looked at during a lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse is purely a natural phenomenon, but several myths have been associated with it since ancient times in all cultures. But with advancements in science and the outreach of rational thinking, most of these myths have been debunked as superstitions. Science says a lunar eclipse is a beautiful celestial phenomenon, and if accompanied by a blood moon, it becomes a rarity. On the 27th of July, the longest total lunar eclipse of the 21st century took place. From the Cape of Good Hope to the Middle East and from Kremlin to Sydney Harbour, thousands watched the moon turn dark before shining orange, brown and crimson in the shadow. According to NASA, the total eclipse lasted 1 hour, 42 minutes and 57 seconds. The fullest eclipse was visible from Europe, Russia, Africa, the Middle East and much of Asia and Australia, though clouds blocked out the moon in some places.
This is unique because it is the longest total eclipse in this century. And it will not be repeated till 2123, that is 105 years from now. So that obviously makes it a unique lunar eclipse. The moon will be the farthest away from Earth at a distance of some 4,06,000 kilometers. And that's why it will appear very small. Because it will appear very small, it will take a longer time to pass through Earth's shadow. And that is why this eclipse will be the longest. Because if the moon is nearer, it will take a lesser time to cross through the Earth's shadow.
A total lunar eclipse occurs when Earth takes position in a straight line between the moon and the sun, blotting out the direct sunlight that normally makes our satellite glow whitish yellow. The moon travels to a similar position every month, but the tilt of its orbit means it normally passes above or below the Earth's shadow, so most months we have a full moon without an eclipse. However, when the three celestial bodies are perfectly lined up, the Earth's atmosphere scatters blue light from the sun while refracting or bending red light onto the moon, usually giving it a rosy blush. This is what gives the phenomenon the name blood moon.
Lunar eclipse is that it is going to be the longest of this century, and the reason why this lunar eclipse is going to be the longest is because moon is in the position of apogee. That means it is farthest from Earth. The perigee corresponds to the nearest to Earth and apogee corresponds to the farthest from Earth. And as moon goes around in this elliptical orbit, because moon's angular momentum is conserved, so when it is closest, it is moving faster compared to when it is at the farthest. When it is at the farthest, namely when it is in the position of apogee, it is moving at a slower rate, and therefore, since the lunar eclipse is going to happen when moon is at the apogee and therefore it is moving very slowly, and hence the shadow region created by Earth, because Earth is in front of the Sun and Moon is going to cross the shadow region created by Earth being in front of the Sun. So the shadow region, the penumbral and umbral region of the shadow, Moon is going to cross at a very slow rate, and also it is going to cross in a diametrical fashion, not a chord of the circle, but diametrical fashion, almost diametrical fashion.
The next lunar eclipse will take place on the 21st of January 2019.
Not much of solar radiation is falling because the Earth is just in front of the Moon, and therefore Moon cools down faster, but the crater remains very hot. So hopefully this lunar eclipse, scientists will try to observe it with greater accuracy about this lunar hotspots, so that they can converge onto what is the right model to explain the lunar hotspots. The other interesting aspect of the lunar eclipse is that when the Moon comes exactly in the umbral region, although the Earth, the solid portion of the Earth, cuts off the solar radiation, but Earth also has an atmosphere. So some part of the solar radiation passes through the atmosphere, they get refracted and they converge on the Moon. But because Sun's radiation is passing through the atmosphere, the blue part of the spectrum of solar radiation, they get scattered away. And red light being of longer wavelength, red light doesn't suffer that much amount of scattering, and they fall on the Moon, making the Moon reddish in color. And that's the reason why sometimes the eclipsed Moon is called blood red Moon. This time, because the Moon is going right through the umbral region, which is supposed to be dark, one expects that it will be reddish, but it will be also very dark.
At least 2 lunar eclipses and as many as 5 occur every year, although total lunar eclipses are less common. When an eclipse of the Moon takes place, everyone on the night side of Earth can see it. The type and length of an eclipse depends on the Moon's proximity to either node of its orbit. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. The next longest lunar eclipse will be visible in 2123. Before this event, the world witnessed an interesting lunar eclipse on the 31st of January this year. It was a rare event when the supermoon, blue moon and blood moon came together. It was a historical sight that was seen in many places of India as well. No enthusiastic skywatcher can afford to miss a total eclipse of the Moon. When the lunar disk slips into the Earth's shadow and turns a deep shade of red, it's called the blood moon. Then there is the phenomenon of the super blue blood moon, a rare celestial event that combines a supermoon, blue moon and a total eclipse. A supermoon is seen when the full moon occurs during the moon's closest approach to Earth, its perigee. It then appears larger and brighter in the sky. Supermoon makes the moon appear closer than normal, although the difference is hard to spot with the naked eye. The moon appears 30% brighter and 14% larger than usual. The last supermoon was seen on the 31st of January 2018.
Now, blue moon has no scientific basis. Occasionally, you can have 2 full moons in a month. When it happens, then the second blue moon of the month is termed as, the second full moon of the month is termed as blue moon. Blue moon happens very rarely. It is not very frequently that you can see a blue moon. But it has nothing to do with the color of the moon. The moon's color remains the same.
A blue moon, on the other hand, has nothing to do with the moon's color. It is actually an additional full moon that appears in a subdivision of a year, either the third of 4 full moons in a season or a second full moon in a month of the common calendar.
In India, we find a lot of myths about eclipses, and people are scared. They are afraid to look at an eclipse. During solar eclipse, I have seen they are afraid to go out in the sun, although there is no scientific basis for these things. Because as I told you, these are simple natural phenomenon which take place by simple movement, natural movement of these planetary bodies, and these are scientifically predictable. Because today we can forecast when a solar eclipse is going to take place 100 years from now, or a lunar eclipse is going to take place 100 years from now. So there is nothing to be worried about, there is nothing to be scared about. And all these myths, they need to be discarded. And it is very important that our younger generation, they grow up without having this kind of a inhibition about eclipses.
The term blood moon describes the total lunar eclipse when the moon turns a dark reddish color. This happens when the Earth passes directly between the sun and the moon falls into our planet's shadow or umbra. The moon doesn't go completely dark, though the sun's light still manages to shine onto the lunar surface.
China, all eclipses are said to be caused by dragon. So when a solar eclipse happens, the old Chinese tradition was that you beat the drums to scare away the dragon. While in our country, Rigveda being the oldest literature of Indo-European languages, Rigveda mentions an event where a demon called Saurabhanu, it afflicts sun and causes sun to be damaged or not be very bright. And it is believed that this verse, where this shloka where Saurabhanu comes and afflicts the sun, and Atri, one of the seers of Atri's family has also written many of the shlokas of Rigveda, till Atri chants a verse that drives away Saurabhanu. So this event, which has been described in Rigveda, is believed to be one of the earliest mention of a solar eclipse event.
When all these three phenomena combine in a rare lunar event, it is called as a super blue blood moon. The rare event was last seen across the world on the 31st of January 2018. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, time for a very short break on the program. We'll be right back. Celestial activities of the moon and stars have always been a matter of curiosity. One of the astronomical activities is the lunar eclipse. Apart from the solar eclipse, it influences us astronomically and, according to popular belief, even astrologically. Let's look at the different types of lunar eclipses that take place in our skies.
The infinite universe has countless groups of celestial bodies. There are clusters of stars, gases and dust particles, all connected to each other due to gravitational force, which we know as the galaxy. Masses of such countless galaxies together form the universe, and in the same universe, our solar system is located. The Sun and the 8 planets revolving around it, satellites revolving around the planets, and other celestial bodies together form the solar system. Being at the center of the solar system, the Sun is the head of the solar family. The 8 planets revolve around the Sun on a certain path which is called orbit. Planet is a Greek word that means wanderer. They don't have their own light and get light and heat from the Sun. As a member of the solar system, the Earth also revolves around the Sun on its axis. The Earth's rotation is important for 3 reasons. It helps define latitude and longitude. Likewise, it also shows the time interval depending on which, apart from day and night, hours, minutes and seconds are divided. Also, many physical and biological activities are completed through the Earth's rotation. As the Earth revolves around the Sun, the Moon, being Earth's satellite, revolves around it. At times, the Earth comes in between the Moon and the Sun, causing an alignment between the Earth, the Moon and the Sun. When Earth comes in between the Sun and the Moon, it prevents the Sun's rays from falling on the Moon. This celestial phenomena is called the lunar eclipse.
Lunar eclipse occurs when during this orbital motion, moon comes behind Earth. That means Earth stands between sun and moon, and therefore shadow of the Earth falls on moon, causing the eclipse. While solar eclipse is the other way around. Solar eclipse happens when moon comes between sun and Earth, so that as moon crosses, it covers the sun, and therefore during the time of totality we don't see the sun at all. So all these phenomena are due to orbital motions of moon around Earth, Earth around sun. But one very interesting thing is that moon's orbit around Earth, the plane of the orbit is inclined by about 5 degrees with respect to the Sun-Earth orbital plane. And that is precisely the reason why not all full moon days are lunar eclipse days, not all new moon days are solar eclipse days.
Moon comes between the sun and the earth, then the moon's shadow falls on the earth, and then a solar eclipse takes place. If the earth comes between the moon and the sun, then the earth's shadow falls on the moon, making it, the dim. The moon's brightness becomes dim and it turns red. So that causes the lunar eclipse.
When the Earth completely covers the Moon, the phenomena is called total lunar eclipse. When it partially covers the Moon, it is called partial lunar eclipse. Apart from these, when the outer part of the Earth's shadow covers the Moon, it is called the penumbral lunar eclipse.
The Moon will be the farthest away from Earth at a distance of some 4,06,000 kilometers. And that's why it will appear very small. Because it will appear very small, it will take a longer time to pass through Earth's shadow. Full moon of the month is termed as blue moon. And that's why we have that, the adage that once in a blue moon, because blue moon happens very rarely. It is not very frequently that you can see a blue moon. But it has nothing to do with the color of the moon. The moon's color remains the same, only it is a term given to an extra full moon in a month.
In the case of total lunar eclipse, as compared to the blue and violet color rays, the red color rays get scattered less, and this is why moon appears red. Blood moon occurs only during total lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse that the world saw on Friday lasted 102 minutes. There won't be another total lunar eclipse longer than Friday's event until 2123. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Both lunar and solar eclipses hold utmost significance across the world. An eclipse is a natural and celestial phenomenon. However, in some ancient and modern cultures, solar eclipses were attributed to supernatural causes. Scientists around the world look forward to such phenomenon as they offer a unique opportunity to study celestial bodies.
An eclipse is one of the most unique celestial phenomena in the universe. It takes place when one heavenly body moves into the shadow of another heavenly body. Eclipses on Earth include an eclipse of the moon and an eclipse of the sun. Total solar eclipses are rare events, although they occur somewhere on Earth every 18 months on an average.
Lunar eclipse occurs when during this orbital motion, moon comes behind Earth. That means Earth stands between sun and moon, and therefore shadow of the Earth falls on moon, causing the eclipse. While solar eclipse is the other way around. Solar eclipse happens when moon comes between sun and Earth, so that as moon crosses, it covers the sun, and therefore during the time of totality we don't see the sun at all.
There are 3 types of solar eclipse: total solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, and annual solar eclipse. A total solar eclipse is only visible from a small area on Earth. For a total eclipse to take place, the sun, moon, and Earth must be in a direct line. The second type of solar eclipse is a partial solar eclipse, which happens when the sun, moon, and Earth are not exactly lined up. The sun appears to have a dark shadow on only a small part of its surface. The third type is an annual solar eclipse. It happens when the moon is farthest from Earth. Because the moon is farther away from Earth, it seems smaller. It does not block the entire view of the sun. The moon in front of the sun looks like a dark disk on top of a larger sun-colored disk. This creates what looks like a ring around the moon.
When the Earth's shadow completely covers the moon does not disappear. It turns red or orange color, very bright red or orange. It's a beautiful sight. In fact, those of us who have seen many lunar eclipses, we know how beautiful it is. And this happens because, you see, during total solar eclipse, the sun simply blacks out. You cannot see the sun. It is covered entirely by the moon. But during lunar eclipse, what happens is the Earth's shadow falls on the moon, covering it. But it does not turn black because when the sun rays pass through the Earth's atmosphere, most of the blue and green light, they get scattered in the sky, by the dust particles and gas particles.
During the solar eclipse, it is advisable to take several precautions. According to scientists, looking directly at the photosphere of the sun, even for a few seconds, can cause permanent damage to the retina of the eye because of the intense visible and invisible radiation that the photosphere emits. The sun's disk can be viewed using appropriate filtration to block the harmful part of the sun's radiation. Sunglasses do not make viewing the sun safe. Only properly designed and certified solar filters should be used for direct viewing of the sun's disk. The safest way to view the sun's disk is by indirect projection. While lunar eclipses are safe to view without any eye protection or special precautions, as they are dimmer than the full moon.
No, there is no need of any precaution during lunar eclipse because solar eclipse is special because the sun is a very bright and hot object. If anyone looks directly at the sun, then he or she is likely to damage the eye because the sunlight is very strong and we have a lens in the eye which focuses the sunlight on the retina. And if sunlight is directly focused on retina, it can get burnt. In fact, several such accidents have taken place in the past. That's why we always caution anyone during solar eclipse that never look at the sun directly. You need special goggles and all. But during lunar eclipse, there is no risk because the moon is a very cool object. We can look at the full moon without any protection.
Solar and lunar eclipses are valued greatly by scientists. They offer a unique opportunity to study celestial bodies. It also allows scientists to learn more about how weather works in space. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.